All right, welcome back to the Onebar and Lupagus Show. I'm Onebar. In this episode, we're going to fantasy land. Maybe not that much of a fantasy, but we're going to be projecting the Vikings 11 starters for the 2024 season. That includes the draft, free agency, some cuts. So I'm going to go position by position on how it could shake out. As always, hit that sub button. If you love the Vikings, make sure to hit that subscribe. We're here every damn day talking Minnesota Vikings, trying to get to 12K before the draft. Let me hear it in the comments. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Because there's some moves here. There's some moves, and we're going to start with the defensive line. And buckle up. Here is your starting defensive line for the Minnesota Vikings, Week 1, 2024. All right, the big boy right off the bat, Danielle Hunter. Man, I can't see us not re-signing him. I got him re-signing 3 years, $65 million. That's right. Well-deserved. We'll get him until he's 32 years old. We're seeing edge rushers right now playing well into their 30s, dominating in their 30s, and that is exactly what he's doing. So I have them re-signing Danielle Hunter. Javon Kinlaw, free agent signing from the Niners. Kwesi was in the building when they drafted Kinlaw. Kinlaw's been a guy, he hasn't really popped yet, but he's shown glimpses. He's had some injuries, and I think they can get him on a fairly cheap deal. This year, he actually, actually showed out a little bit. So he's only 26 years old. He started like 7 games, had 3.5 sacks. He's been kind of buried behind a very good 49ers defensive line, and I think he would be beautiful. I think he'd be absolutely beautiful in the middle of this line. And maybe it's a 1-year prove-it deal. Maybe he wants to make that big old paycheck. Maybe he wants to come into a team like the Vikings and Brian Flores that can make him some money. But I got us getting Javon Kinlaw. As you will see, Harrison Phillips is not on here, and I think he had a damn good year. I think he had a very underrated year. I think he was a very good chance that he could come back. In this scenario, I have the Vikings moving on from him. If they cut Harrison Phillips, they save about $6.5 million. So we'll see if it's worth it to them to bring him back. Big boy in the middle, new face, McKinley Jackson. McKinley Jackson, the big man from A&M. I got the Vikings taking him in round 2. I know Sweat, Jenkins, potentially Murphy, who I think will be gone, or hot names, but this is a name that Vikings fans need to get familiar with. McKinley Jackson is that big man, 320, just ginormous, but he's also very, very athletic, explosive. Everything you read about him is just, he's big, but he can get back there. 3.5 sacks this year. He can get to the quarterback, but he is a big mammoth of a man that can take on some double teams and make some room. All right, last one, Dallas Turner. It's a first-round pick. I got him, Vikings taking him at 11. Right now, Latu, I think, is probably the number 1 edge. We will see. It's pretty jammed up in there, but Dallas Turner coming in opposite Danielle Hunter would be absolutely amazing. I mean, this defensive line could be a game changer for the Vikings. I mean, we saw what Brian Flores did with not so great tools up front this year. You give him these 4 guys, and really, Hunter, yes, he's going to cost a ton of money. Kinlaw, maybe $5.5 million. The other guys, draft picks. So not too shabby. Let's go to the linebacker position. Yep. Sorry. Boring. Very familiar. Pace will be coming back. Jordan Hicks is definitely a question mark, but with Hicks, unless you draft somebody looking at free agency, there's not much out there. There's not really that young guy. I mean, there's some young guys out there, but they're going to cost a ton. And I think bringing Hicks back at probably a pretty damn good price helps the development of Pace. He's good, and maybe we invest in a linebacker next year, but that's all I got at linebacker. I mean, it pretty much speaks for itself. I mean, those big boys up front are only going to make Pace better. They're only going to make Hicks better. Hicks was drinking from the fountain of youth last year, looked absolutely dominant at times until he got hurt. Let's go to the secondary. Again, very familiar. Byron Murphy, Metellus, and Mekhi Blackman. Mekhi Blackman, we all have very high hopes for in year 2. He played very, very good when he was out there. Metellus, an absolute monster out there. And Byron Murphy, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I could see them restructuring him, doing something different, but I fully expect him back. But again, you get those guys up front, like that defensive line that is staring at me. It's getting me all excited in my parts just looking at those guys. It's only going to make your secondary better. Let's go to the safety position where there is a pretty big change, and that is Cam Bynum and free agent Xavier McKinney. Xavier McKinney from the Giants, still only 24 years old. Since he's been in the league, the dude has been one of the best in the league. It's easy to say, how are the Giants going to let this guy go? Well, I don't know if he's worth that franchise tag, but also it's the Giants, so I don't know if they're really going to pay him that much. He's projected anywhere to get about 12, like anywhere from 11 to 12 million a year, which is actually a pretty damn good price for him. He's good against the run. He's a ball hawk. He gets a ton of interceptions. So pairing him up with Cam Bynum would be awesome. I mean, safety does, people are kind of like on the fence or off the fence as far as spending money to safety. And I think at $12 million a year for this guy next to Cam Bynum, it's going to be painful losing Harrison Smith. No, he didn't have a fantastic season, but it's going to be a huge drop. And we don't have anybody on the roster unless crazily a Jay Ward, a Theo Jackson shows up. But I say screw it. Go spend some money. So keep that safety position solid. Add those guys up front. There it is. Let me know. Those are your 11 starters. I could see, the McKinley Jackson. Maybe it's a Sweat. Maybe it is one of those other second-round defensive linemen. But I say you go big on like a Kinlaw. You take a big old swing. Maybe you got something there. And also at the safety position. But I think the middle of this defense at linebacker and corner is going to be very, very familiar. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. We'll be doing these throughout the season. Also, we'll be doing ones for the offensive side of the ball. Hit that sub button. We'll be hot and heavy. Talk